and welcome to video 1 of my 3-video review marathon. Let's see how far I get. It is 10 o'clock at night, so here we go. I'm going to start with R.L. Stine's The First Evil, just because it's the shortest and it's the easiest one for me to get through. I did Silent Night last year for Christmas, and I didn't love it. I wasn't sure if it was just a one-off because I hadn't read the Silent Night series in so long, and maybe it just wasn't his best, but no. The cheerleader series and the horror series, plus the mind reader, are my absolute favorite aside from the Fear Street saga, where they explore why Fear Street is Fear Street. Those have been my favorites forever, but this one, it was rough. And I think the problem is more so that I've grown out of R.L. Stine. His writing, it doesn't mature well. It's probably great because I read it multiple times when I was younger, and I think I'd even read it in my 20s at some point and didn't have any issues. But now that I'm in my late 30s, it's not aging well for me. So let's just put it that way. I am sad that I didn't love this book the way that I did when I was younger, but it felt underdeveloped, honestly. The writing style was very dated. It was kind of an omniscient narrator with different narrative points of view. I didn't really enjoy the head hopping so much, but let's get into it. We have Bobbi and Corcoran, and can I just say, this is probably where I fell in love with the name Corky. They are new to Shadyside. They are cheerleaders from their old school, and that's the thing that they're worried about at this moment in time. We meet them when they're getting ready for breakfast, but before they're gonna eat breakfast, they've got to play a prank on their younger brother, Sean. It doesn't go over well. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. He is not a fan of their prank, which is basically he's afraid of rats, and they put a very realistic plastic rat in front of his door. We get this whole thing about how they go down to breakfast and their mother has made them poached eggs. It doesn't seem like anybody in this family likes poached eggs. Why every single person had to comment on the fact that they were having poached eggs, and we had nothing, no kind of resolution, no story time about why nobody likes poached eggs, is beyond me. But no, nobody likes poached eggs, but they all ate them. Bobbi goes upstairs. She's the older of the two sisters. Of course, Bobbi is jealous of Corky because Corky is taller, but Corky is jealous of Bobbi because Bobbi has a better feminine figure. Does any of this have anything to do with anything at the end of the day? Absolutely not, but I guess we're developing our characters in a sense. I read this book in like an hour and a half, if that tells you how short it is. Not a lot of time to do development, which is unfortunate, but hey, if you're trying to get through books quickly, this is the route to go. Corky comes upstairs only to find Bobbi laying lifeless over the banister. She starts to freak out only to realize it's just another one of Bobbi's tricks. Right now, I'm gonna stop. I can see where Stine could have been going with this. Because if you are unfamiliar with the Fear Street, it's all about bad things happen. So I could see how Bobbi's little tricks could lead into the unusual stuff that occurs, and it's like, oh, these are all just Bobbi's tricks? No. This is where Bobbi's tricks stop. Why we had to be introduced to this, except to say that Bobbi and slightly Corky are mischievous? I don't know. Even though they were all-star cheerleaders at their old school, they are so nervous about making the squad at Shadyside. Again, I don't really understand where this anxiety comes from, but we are developing our characters. We hop into school and we hop into cheerleading tryouts, but we are in Jennifer's head. Jennifer is the head cheerleader. She is everything you'd want to be. Beautiful, perfect, amazing cheerleader. Her best friend is Kimmy. Kimmy is the second in command. She's like a step down from captain. She is not a fan of the fact that Jennifer and their coach, Miss Green, are letting Bobbi and Corky try out. There are only 6 girls on this squad. It could be this is a 90s thing. It could be this is R.L. Stine having no idea what cheerleading is like. This could be an antiquated notion. This could just be based on schools, but for the book's purposes, it is. But she doesn't see why these girls have to try out. In my head, before we even learn about how big this squad is and that there might be issues adding girls on, I'm thinking, but if they're making your squad better, and if nobody is at risk of being kicked off, why does it matter? And it sort of matters, except when I found out there's only 6 girls in the squad, I was like, this is kind of ridiculous. But it does turn out that they can't take both girls, because you can't have 8 girls on the squad. Maybe we can fit 1, but we can't fit 2. So why wasn't this discussed before they let them try out? Why wasn't this something that was put out there before the girls tried out? I don't know, because everybody's expecting great things from them because their squad was on ESPN, so you know they're legit. Kimmy has formed this alliance with 2 girls. One is Ronnie, who's a freshman who was able to make this squad, and the other is a girl named Deborah. Nobody else seems to mind that Bobbi and Corky are joining this team. Like, at this point, Kimmy is the only one who kind of has a problem, / Deborah, and I don't really know how Deborah fits into this, except that Kimmy needs a henchman. They have their tryout, they do a great job. Jennifer and Miss Green go to Miss Green's office and they're like, oh my gosh, that was amazing, but we can only take 1. They decide, let's bump Ronnie down to alternate status so that we can have both girls. Everybody is supportive and excited about having these sisters on their squad until Ronnie gets bumped down and Kimmy starts to poison everybody's minds. And then apparently nobody wants these girls on the squad. I don't know. Whatever the case. Now it is their first football game. My question here, they're on their way and it's a really bad storm. I'm thinking, is this football or basketball? Because if it's football, why is the game not canceled? Because they're going to be outside. For the purpose of the novel, we have to have this really bad storm. The girls are going to use fire batons, and as they're on their way and they are being driven by this guy named Mr. Simmons, I don't know what's the deal with Mr. Simmons. I don't know if he has any mental issues or what. He's kind of like a janitor, handyman, school bus driver, but he's driving pretty recklessly. Miss Green is not on the bus because conveniently she is meeting them there because she had to bring friends or something. But Jennifer says something about the fire batons, and it was either Bobbi or Corky. One of them says, oh my gosh, I forgot the batons. We took them home and we forgot to bring them back. At no point in her entire day had she thought, oh my gosh, I forgot the batons. Apparently not. They make a detour to Fear Street where the girls live, and of course everybody's like, ooh, you live on Fear Street. Honestly, why we couldn't just leave these batons at home because it's raining anyways, I don't know. It's like a monsoon out there, but we have to go get these batons. And as I said, Simmons is driving very recklessly. For some reason, he decides he has to open up the bus doors because it's getting foggy and hard to see. Why he can't just slow down, I don't know. None of this is explained. But for plot purposes, he opens up this door. They lose control. They hit a pothole, something. Jennifer, who had been standing up, flies out the bus doors. The bus loses control, lands in Fear Street Cemetery, but they're all okay. Then they realize, Jennifer. Where's Jennifer? Is Jennifer okay? They find her sprawled across the headstone of a woman named Sarah Fear. There's no way that Jennifer has survived this ejection. The police are called, the paramedics are called, and she's basically declared dead. Bobbi goes over, and they're catching flack because it's their fault this happened because they brought the fire batons home and forgot them, and so the whole squad had to go down Fear Street. Like, It does not exactly make sense. It's kind of Jennifer's fault for making that call, or for whoever decided that they still needed to go to a football game in a monsoon. But she is kind of losing her mind. She goes over to Jennifer and she's like, Jennifer's not dead. And Jennifer's not dead. But what we learn is that she's paralyzed. At least some form or fashion. It's not actually explicitly stated that she's paralyzed, but she is in a wheelchair. We resume the novel. It's a couple weeks later. They're at a pep rally, and Kimmy's super excited because she's going to be declared the captain of the squad. They're doing their thing. Jennifer wheels in her wheelchair, and she has a pennant that people made her and gave her and blah, blah, blah. Miss Green gets up to speak, only to declare Bobbi the captain of the squad. And I think we're all thinking, seriously? Why? Except that Bobbi's an amazing cheerleader, but this book, because it's so short and it goes so quickly, we don't have room for that. But we do, because we need it for the novel. Kimmy is so upset that she storms out. And here's a little bit of backstory that we learn this later. Like, Bobbi had no idea. She was so overwhelmed by the fact that she was made captain and everybody congratulating her that she didn't even know that Kimmy had stomped away. And I just found that sort of unbelievable. But yes, Kimmy quits the squad. She's like, this is not happening. I worked too hard for this, so why is this girl usurping my position? Bobbi is on her way home that day, and she's approached by a football player named Chip. Turns out Chip is actually Kimmy's relatively recent ex-boyfriend. Not that Bobbi knows any of this, but they arranged to go on a date after the next football game. The problem right now is that nobody wants to listen to Bobbi because Kimmy has poisoned everybody's minds, but she has become best friends with Jennifer. So she's spending all this time with Jennifer, and Jennifer's like, well, you know that Chip is Kimmy's ex-boyfriend and this, that, the other. They get to the football game, and Chip, I think, is their quarterback. They're doing well, but then Chip freezes up on a play. Now the other team is coming from behind and is beating them. Finally, we have one more play in which Chip gets absolutely obliterated. This other team just knocks him out, and Bobbi's like, is he okay? That was a really hard hit. She meets up with him after the game, and she's like, are you okay? Needless to say, he's fine, but he's like, I don't know what happened to me. I just froze up. I couldn't do anything. They don't go out, but she does take him home, and he kind of attacks her in not a bad way, but like, let's make out way, but it comes out of nowhere. I don't know. It was something. There is a moment, I think it already happened. It doesn't really matter, but Kimmy does approach Bobbi, and she's like, you've made a mistake. He's my boyfriend. On one hand, I'm good with this because even though Bobbi didn't know Chip had been with Kimmy, I would be upset if I were Kimmy too, because we don't even know why they broke up. We don't really know how long ago they broke up. If Kimmy's mad, I totally get it. The way it went down, I thought was random, but anyways, actually, you know what? This must have happened. This happened afterwards because Kimmy confronts Bobbi. And then Miss Green comes in because they're like girl fighting it out. And she says, what's going on here? You guys have to apologize to each other or else you're off the squad. They apologize to each other. And Miss Green's like, well, that's great because now we're going to practice this new stunt that Bobbi and Corky have come up with, and you two are going to work really closely together. These stunts, they were super simplistic, but Stine makes them sound so complicated and impressive. Whatever the case, Kimmy is supposed to stand on Corky's shoulders. She flips over and Bobbi will catch her. Well, what do you think happens? Bobbi does not catch her because Bobbi freezes up. Somewhere along the line, Bobbi does go out into the hallway and strange things are happening. I think it might have been after this. So she goes in the hallway and like the lockers start opening and closing. She starts hearing someone scream, and then it's all over. I get it. We're building ambiance and creating atmosphere, but nothing else like this ever happened. So I thought it felt out of place in the grand scheme of things. Whatever. Bobbi is naturally upset over all these things that are happening, but she has Jennifer to fall back on. Jennifer is a safe space for her. She's gone to Jennifer's house for them to study, and then when she leaves, she sees somebody walking around inside, and she realizes that's Jennifer. But do you remember what I said? Jennifer's paralyzed, so how in the world could Jennifer be up and walking around? She's 100% positive that it's Jennifer because there's nobody else home. So she goes up to the house and she knocks on the door, and Jennifer answers, but she's in her wheelchair, and so she gives a flimsy excuse and then she goes home. She tries to tell Corky, but Corky will not believe her. They get into something of an argument, and then this is when we get one of those omniscient narrating moments where it's like, well, Corky had no idea this would be the last time that she ever spent the night with Bobbi. So we have our foreshadowing. We know something is going to happen to Bobbi, and it's not going to be good. For one reason or another, Corky does not come to cheerleading practice. At this practice, Miss Green tells Bobbi that not only is she not captain any longer, but she's no longer on the squad. She dismisses the squad and she cancels practice. Bobbi goes to the showers, and very early on in the novel, Kimmy, Ronnie, and Deborah had gone to take showers, and they had been like scalding hot. We're also getting little mentions of a cheerleading pendant that Kimmy wears that her parents had given her, and it's like her most prized possession, but it continues to fall off. Bobbi is taking a shower, but then all of the showers turn on and they're all scalding hot. She can't get out. The doors are locked, and the insinuation is that she dies, that she basically is like boiled to death. Corky shows up and she's like, where is everybody? Let's go to the locker room. Maybe Bobbi's there or whatever. When she's there, she finds Kimmy's necklace, and then she realizes, hey, the shower doors are closed. Why are they closed? They're never closed. She opens them. Scalding water comes down on her. She discovers Bobbi's body, and she's just like, what in the world? We pick up another couple weeks later, and Corky is at Bobbi's grave. She's been spending a lot of time at Bobbi's grave, but she reaches into her pants pocket and she finds the necklace, and she says, this is Kimmy's necklace. I found it outside of the shower room. Kimmy killed Bobbi. She confronts Kimmy, and Kimmy's like, I absolutely did not do that. It was either Ronnie or Deborah. I was like, no, she doesn't even have that necklace anymore. She gave it to Jennifer. And this is when Corky's like, Jennifer? Bobbi told me something strange about Jennifer. She's driving around, and then she winds up behind a car driven by Jennifer, and she's like, I'm following that car. She follows Jennifer to that cemetery, and she watches Jennifer dance over Sarah Fear's grave. She confronts Jennifer, and Jennifer's like, I'm not Jennifer. She's actually really, really obtuse. I wish we would have had a moment of clarity, but we don't. But eventually she does say, well, if you're not Jennifer, who are you? If you do notice, all the bad things that are happening to people that you kind of feel need to be punished. Chip is being punished because he was with Kimmy, but now he's trying to get with Bobbi, even though it's a betrayal to Kimmy in a way, so let's punish him. And then of course Bobbi is punished because in a way she took a captainship doesn't belong to her, and she's dating a boy that doesn't belong to her. Corky and Jennifer have a scuffle, and it turns out that Jennifer is not Jennifer. It's actually Sarah Fear. She's inhabited by the spirit of Sarah Fear. She pushes Corky into her grave. Corky, though, has cat-like reflexes gained by years of cheerleading, and she's able to kind of like somersault out of the grave. This is when she sees that Kimmy, Deborah, and Ronnie have followed her. She scuffles with Jennifer, and she like chokes the life out of her, which basically means that she forces this spirit out of her, and she believes that she has forced this spirit back into the grave. Dun, dun, dun. The cops show up, and she's like, look, it was Jennifer. The problem with that, though, is that Jennifer is a corpse. This spirit reinvigorated Jennifer's body, but once the spirit left, Jennifer went back to the state she would have been in if she had never been reinvigorated. And so they're like, that thing has been dead a long time. And this, for me, is a really interesting concept, because you could think, now everybody thinks that Corky's crazy, but Jennifer's been walking around, or rolling around for weeks. Her own parents saw her. Lots of people saw her. So I think this is a really interesting moment, because if you step back and think about it, nobody's gonna understand the why or the how. So if only we'd had more time, a longer book, better writing, we could have explored that, but we don't. Jennifer, or the spirit of Sarah Fear, has gone. Corky gets home, and she's getting into bed, only to realize that Jennifer's pennant is in her bed. So that tells us that something else is afoot. This book was depressing in the realization that it wasn't this great scary masterpiece that I remembered it being. Honestly, even though it only took me like an hour and a half to read it, it was still kind of boring in places. And again, that goes back to it being dated and to the writing style, to the lack of development and the lack of time that was given to it. Yeah, it's a very, very simple book. There is the first evil. Stay tuned, because we have 2 more coming. Plus, I have 2 other reviews for you to enjoy this outfit in.